I don't know. Hey. All right, I'd like to call the October meeting of Inland Wetlands Watercourse Commission to order. First business is the approval of minutes of last month. Everyone look them over. Have any questions, comments, additions, deletions? If not, I'd like to make a motion to approve. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next, we have a public hearing, application 24-08W, proposed by DAT to construct a 3-lot subdivision and associated improvements in an upland review area on lot 6A, block 12F, 398 Chamberlain Highway. Can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Commissioner Rogan will make a motion to open the public hearing.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who's up?
Good evening. My name is Jack Gilmartin, JL Surveying. We did the.
No.
For what it's worth, I'm going to record this.
The speakers there in the middle.
Yeah.
So,
All right. We did JL Survey did the preliminary survey of the property. We did the topography, locations, and such. What we located on the site was the existing buildings, existing concrete chutes for the Quonset huts in the back, the sewer, fencing, the trail that loops around the property. I've been away on vacation and just got back, so I don't have a board. I apologize, but basically, this is the property. This is a sanitary sewer easement that goes through the property, and these are the wetlands in the back here. This is what I'm showing them. The 3-lot subdivision, it's basically there's an existing house on the lot. A second house would be on the Chamberlain, and then what you call a flag lot or rear lot in the back here. To do this, to create this, there's a garage on the end of this building. That garage would have to come out because it would be, one thing you cannot do when you're doing any kind of work improvements is you can't create a non-conformity. So having the right of way going up here in the building setback lines, that garage would be over the side yard. And my opinion is it's not the right thing to do to go to commission and say we want a variance or we want a waiver on something that we're creating. So the garage is coming off of here to make room to do the rear lot. Grade-wise, this house in the back here, this again is the wetlands, and this is the buffer, the 50-foot buffer line. This foundation, we're not really looking at doing any real major graded change. The foundation is designed to be 1.5 feet above the existing ground now. So we're not, the whole site slopes out this way. It's got gradual grade through it, so it doesn't need to, we don't need to be doing any major grading on the site. So that's what we're looking to do, very minimal grading around the building. Again, 1.5 feet above just to keep the foundation dry. And this building up here, it's the same situation. I'd love to be, one thing about this is you all know the site. You come off the road and you go down a hill and down into the property. Not an ideal for drainage going into your garage and such. So I've been trying to play around with bringing this up. And it's really hard. It's not really wise to try and get the water to go back out to the road. There is a regulation in the subdivision code that said the driveway apron has to be at street line 8/10 above the gutter line. So you're going to have that from the street line. It has to pitch back by code. So that will happen there. Other than that, it'll be sewer. Obviously, we'll have sewer on the property. There's a water line right out in the road out here. We'll bring water into these. There's an existing well right here and another well over here on the property. 2 wells. This one will probably be abandoned. And this will stay with the house, and these two will be on the water line. And that's about it from the surveying end of it. Question?
Jack, we gave Tommy, Mr. Kokomo, something from our files that we had that showed definitely a different line for the wetlands.
Okay.
Did you get a chance to look at that?
No, I didn't, but what I did was I just located the flags that this gentleman put out.
Okay.
So for the record, my name is Ian Cole, professional soil scientist of record for this application. I was contacted by the applicant to go look at the wetlands. I flagged the wetlands on this site this May, earlier on in the season. The map of reference that everyone's discussing is this map here. Essentially, if you look at this map, there's a wetland boundary shown on it. This map's from 1991. If you look at the map and you look at the wetland line circled on here, it says approximate wetland boundary. It also then, if you look at the map reference in this map, it references where that map boundary came from, and it's referenced from a other map made in 1986. So this is a 38-year-old delineation that says approximate on it. This is not a valid piece of data for a wetland delineation 40 years later. The wetlands on the site here are held to the western limits of the site. Basically, what's not wet's manufactured. Recently, Tom dug 2 test pits to kind of look at the superficial material of what that fill looked like. In the north west corner, and then kind of north centrally where generally what would be the backyard of the proposed house location. So he dug test holes down 4 feet, and it was uniform fill. So we were kind of sitting there saying, like, what I said to myself, what would be this precipitous of this fill coming in? If you look on this map, there's a sewer easement that runs through here. So this easement is, when I was told, it's a 10-inch sewer pipe, but it's down like 10 feet in the ground, meaning they had to do a significant excavation on this property to install this sewer easement that runs kind of in this zone at some point. When they did that, that's kind of when this site was what I would consider like historically manufactured. This wetland boundary, if you go and you look at the Connecticut deep air photos going back to 34, basically at the wetland boundary, there's a strong water course that flows south. That has remained unchanged for like the last 100 years. If you went out there today, that water course channel's in the same location it was on those 34 aerials. But essentially it all kind of abuts that tree line. This is kind of a tiny photo, and I apologize. Wasn't really kind of going to submit it for evidence, but if you look at the 2019 photo that's available on the Town GIS website and to compare it with kind of what's publicly available recently, now the 2023 photos, you can see at some point the previous tenant installed a series of greenhouses to the west of the existing building that's kind of up near the road. My understanding from talking to the applicant, these buildings were approved by planning and zoning. Town would have to check into that, but you can see this envelope here goes almost right to the property line, which is corresponding to the line that I flagged, which more or less the wetland boundary for all practical purposes kind of runs parallel to that property line. With respect to the proposed activities regarding the subdivision, if you look at those activities, there really nothing is planned within 50 feet of the flagged wetland boundary today. What I had recommended to the applicant is the zone of that 50-foot buffer is really starting to grow in nice and thickly with a whole bunch of vegetation. It's pretty well established. It's going to be a nice buffer. In like another 5 years, it'll be really thick. What would be the rear yard, or basically that 50-foot thing, I said, you might want to look to putting that into a conservation easement so that it's better protected in the future. And was open to the suggestion of, permanently monumenting it, whatever the town thought was appropriate every 50 feet. I would recommend, especially on what would be that rear lot, that rear southern lot. But otherwise, yeah, if you go out there, strong wetland boundary. You know, there's also this other map that the applicant had provided me that's dates back to the 90s also. You can see in this map, planning and zoning had also approved another greenhouse, what would be in that rear location for that rear lot that's being proposed. You know, the site has some history of getting approvals for activities kind of in the same footprint of what's being proposed here today. So, you know, I didn't see any evidence of, you know, new significant fill being imported to the site. There's most of the fill material that's kind of on site here is kind of pea stone material. So it's kind of tightly compacted, but if you were to go there, it's all vegetated. So it's all, you know, probably another couple of years, you wouldn't even know that underfoot it was kind of pea stone and whatnot. The uplands. You go into the wetland boundary, and the wetland boundaries pretty readily identifiable, kind of skunk cabbage, you know, typical red maple forest and wetland.
On the map, can you show us where the test pits were dug?
Yeah, sure.
All three of them were the same.
There was, so he basically dug a 4-foot pit, and it was just uniform fill the whole way. So normally, you know, if you saw someone come in, to me, it signified that it was a large fill event corresponding to a big construction activity. It's not the type of fill that, you know, you get a couple tracks of it. I mean, this is, you know, hundreds of trucks that, you know, a large construction project. And, you know, this was before, you know, I had said to him, I said, what could have occurred on the property? And then you see the sewer easement that runs through the property. That makes a lot of sense of why you'd have all this fill on the property. It's a pretty flat property. But yeah, the fill kind of in these areas where the house was, it was, at least the test holes that we dug were 4 feet of just straight fill, uniform fill.
On the map, whereabouts that were they?
Sure, it's easier if I show on this map. Can I use this pen for a second?
Sure.
It might not show. I got a pen over here. Generally speaking, these are the two locations that we looked at. I mean, I know it's not showing well, but it generally we were 50 feet off the wetland boundary. So I wanted to see, you know, if there was anything. What I was looking for was basically, you know, it's very flat in there. I said, if you can go down 2 to 4 feet, if there was recent wetlands that were filled, you would have a clear organic boundary there or some native soil that was underneath it.
So what you're saying is that this fill was not done in the last year or two?
I believe this fill is like 30, 40, 50 years old kind of fill. I saw no evidence of, you know, normally when you see like new fresh fill, you'll see, you know, emergent wetland vegetation trying to pop up through it because it'd be like a thin mantle over organics or whatnot. That just doesn't exist here. It's kind of, you know, that pea stone material, like 4 feet deep, goes right up to the wetland boundary. And then it's a very stark wetland boundary of like, here's the wetland vegetation, here's the upland vegetation. Most of the upland vegetation there is quite honest, all Japanese knotweed, backstop with Japanese knotweed, and then that's getting backstopped with other very thick shrubby vegetation. So it's pretty stabilized. There's no points of concentration. Nothing's like flowing. You know, it's sheet flows, but it's doing it in a, you know.
Is there a drop off?
When you go right up to the wetland boundary, it does drop off. It's almost like if you go back on the 34 aerial photos, you can see the channel for the stream is very linear. Yeah, I mean, basically it's like a 2-foot drop from, you know, what was manufactured. If you look at that 2023 photo that shows the greenhouses, you know, having been, you know, let go and now raised, if you look at that, you can see how far back it goes, right? And so if you imagine when they were putting those greenhouses in, they probably, you know, superficially, like the top foot of material, probably leveled it out, bring in new gravel, whatnot, and staked them down. You know, they were greenhouses, so it's not like their own foundations or anything, but there was some level of ground preparation to install them so they could move around them.
And your test pits again were at the upland.
Yeah, they were within those areas there.
They were 50 feet from the wetland.
Yeah,
where
yes.
the pits were.
Yeah, because I wanted to see where test pits were the activities that he was proposing.
Yep.
To make sure that he wasn't,
And
you know,
didn't see-
unearthing anything.
And there weren't wetland soils in that 4 foot
No,
well.
not at all.
The reason why I asked you about recent, what you thought was recent or not, is that the neighbors, we've gotten several letters from the neighbors saying that over the last year or so,
So what I think
there have
was,
been trucks.
what I
coming
think,
in.
I mean, so it's a construction, it's a commercial business site. They've been cleaning the place up, so there's been dumpsters in and out of there. There definitely have been, at some point, some top dressing of, I don't know if millings is the correct term, but kind of like within the existing paved surfaces, but nothing like of substantial depth. The amount of material that's there, I mean, you're talking 300, 400, 500 tracks of material. You're talking a construction project that would take 3-4 months of daily trucks going to the site. And for that to occur, I mean, like the town would know. I mean, you're not talking something about like, you know, you're having a construction project. I mean, it's essentially, I know it's a commercial business, but it's embedded in a residential area. You're going to notice the kind of thing where you get 500 trucks showing up on your site. This isn't like, 3 or 4 tracks. So, yeah, I didn't see any evidence of new material being imported out there, at least since the time I've been on site.
My question would be to that sewer line.
All right.
How is it,
Oh,
how
about
close would a third flat house be to that sewer line? I mean, what are you gonna do, dig up the neighbor's backyard?
You'd have to, I'd have to,
It's out of, there's a 20-foot right of way. It's out of the right of way, but right up close to it.
Yeah, well, I still, if you ever needed access to it, you're gonna
Well-
be digging up their backyard.
No, it would, because it's a 20-foot right of way with the sewer line in the middle. So he's got 10 feet on each side. That's why
How close does it get to the back of the house?
to the back of the house or
Yeah.
the front of the house, from street side, right?
Yeah,
I was
Street
assuming this was on the back.
Street side. The easement is 2 or 3 feet away from the house. The easement, limits of the easement. So I know this is kind of a, but if you look at, there's the house.
yep.
And that line is, that's the limit of the easement, and the sewer line is over here. So when the town or other people do an easement, sometimes you'll see a couple of, you'll have a construction easement, which is usually a lot wider, so when they originally do it, that is abandoned once, and then a permanent easement, a 20-foot easement. Every now and then, I don't
So
know
it's
why
gonna
they,
be within 3 feet of the front of the house.
you're talking the easement,
Easement.
not the sewer line.
It's
It's a big difference.
50, be about 13, 14, the sewer line, be
Yeah.
13, 14 feet from the house. But what I'm looking at, is this the driveway?
No, well, the driveway's over here, but this is a sewer line.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, that's a sewer line.
okay.
And then take, again, common sense here. One of the things about easements is the misconception of an easement. An easement is an access on a piece of property that a homeowner owns. A homeowner has a restriction of certain things he can and cannot do. Theoretically, he's not supposed to build on it, plant on it.
What about the driveway? The driveway into the garage?
He can do the driveway, and actually, he could put a shed on it. He could build a temporary shed on an easement. The problem is for the homeowner is if the town or the utility company or who has the easement comes in and says we're going to go through, we're going to move your shed, and it's at your cost and your liability. So that's why people don't do it, because ultimately.
Okay, so they go in there to do any work on that line. The homeowner's doing all the landscaping, the bushes, ripping up his driveway. He's responsible for replacing that.
He would,
Because of the
if the town, if this driveway's in the easement and the town needs to, this is a town easement, by the way.
Okay,
And so
okay.
if the town needs to go into that sewer line and disturb that driveway, it's the responsibility of the homeowner, not the town.
So it's a big responsibility.
But that's the way they all work. That's the way they work.
it's
And then the other
responsibility of the
thing
homeowner
is,
if they want anything beyond like the traditional like rye.
the other
grass
thing
and
is, if this
seed
guy's
beds.
gonna do this work on this line, common sense, he's gonna broadcast that way. To the 10-foot side that's away from the house. Unless he's really mad at this guy and he throws it on his front porch.
Okay, well, let's do this.
That's not-
Get that letter to Bill and the
Jim, horrible. What Mr. Cole is saying is that this was being excavated 20 or 30 years ago. Do you agree with that? Do you know what he's talking about? Just, with the major construction, that sewer line? Jim?
Get that letter. Or
Jim? I lost Jim.
One thing I could offer for the commission's consideration is, there are technical reviews available, like for the commission's use, like the North Central Conservation District, for example. They'll review technical reviews of stuff like this. So, there are agencies out there that will come and review a wetland line. I'd welcome anyone. I'd be happy to meet anyone out there if the town needed a review of it. Or
So
another
you,
opinion.
you flagged the wetland line in May,
I flagged the wetland line this May, yes.
and that was,
There should be a report in the file that basically, just like a kind of standard delineation report.
by doing core
Yep,
soil samples?
yeah.
And have
It's
you,
easy digging on the wetland side, not so easy digging on the upland side, 'cause, the milling and stuff.
and you made a comment, I just want to make sure I understand everything you told us. You said something like, if it's not wet, it's constructed or something?
Manufactured. So basically, you have more than 2 feet. If you have more than 2 feet of fill material placed on top of a poorly drained soil, by technical definition, it's no longer a hydric soil. It's now considered an upland soil. So that would be redefined as, in this case, like what they would call a eutrophin soil is like the technical name for it, or man-made lands. So generally speaking, all of the uplands on this site, for the most part, have more than 2 feet of fill on them. So if there was a wetland in there in the 1950s and it was buried with 2 feet of fill, it would no longer be technically considered a wetland. So Clean Water Act came out in '72. I don't, but there was no evidence of, hey, there's stuff that was recently filled there. You didn't see any wetland vegetation pushed over, no track. A lot of times you'll see at the fringe when you see wetland impacts of like significant filling. There'll be evidence of stuff kind of still fingers going out into the wetland boundary. Just none of that was present.
Have you been on site since May?
Yes, I have been. I recently went out site to do September 18th is when we went out on site to do those 4-foot deep test holes.
So your testimony that by your observation, there's no recent obvious spill in the wetland, that's a pretty recent observation.
That's
It's
correct.
not from May.
It's not from May. And then what I did was I go back to all these sites and I look at historic air photos. So like on the Town JS website, right, there's like a series for like 2009, 2012, 2019. And if you pull the property card for this property, you can see the bank took ownership of it in 2018. And then it switched hands a couple times. It had some various tenants in it. It's been a landscape in place since like the 70s. Those at some point after 2019, during the pandemic, they went through and they put up those greenhouses and whatnot and kind of expand. I think most of the activities that happened on this site, like superficially with like the land clearing and stuff, centered around, to me, there's probably 3 zones. Probably was originally developed at some point in the 50s and 70s for the original structure and kind of development of the site. Then there was another round of development in probably the early 80s when that sewer easement went in and there was another site clearing. Then the site sat kind of like idle for a while. And then, during the pandemic, there was another go around of like kind of improving the property. And then that went derelict. And then now Tom's coming in and cleaning the property up with dumps. There's a lot of materials been, when I say material, like garbage stuff, stuff that was like abandoned. He's been removing from the site to clean it up. That's kind of my read of the site.
Thank you.
So based on your review of the aerial photographs, you're saying that there was activity for greenhouses. When did that activity take place based on the aerial photographs?
Sometime between 2019 and 2023.
Okay. And are you saying that the bulk of the filling that you observed on the property, I understood you to say that that was related to the construction of greenhouses to the west of the road?
No, I think the bulk of the filling was related to the sewer easement. The greenhouses, I think, just cleared the land a second time, like, stuff that grew up after from 86 and that 20-year period. The greenhouses are kind of built at grade, so like they didn't excavate it. I don't think there was a major earth moving process with the construction of the greenhouses. I think from what looks like the air photos between 2019 and 2023, there was an expansion of, I guess what I'll call like the commercial, like where they put the flowers out and stuff kind of in the northern limits of the site. And at that same time, they kind of bring in a whole bunch of millings so they can kind of drive around the yard. So that's when you see kind of this more expansive footprint of, it looks like pavement, but it's kind of millings and pea stone material.
You indicated that there was permitting by planning and zoning?
That's just my understanding from a conversation with the applicant, that planning and zoning had approved the greenhouse activities.
And that was-
And
that was
there was
circa-
2 maps. There was one map in 91, and then I don't know outside of that.
And the greenhouse activity, you said it was circa 2019 to 2023?
That's what it looks like from the aerials. So,
Okay.
but there also looks like there was other greenhouses that may have been proposed earlier in the 90s, but I don't know if they were it's hard to decipher if they were built or not built.
And those greenhouses were west of the current structure.
Correct.
And they wouldn't have to come to this commission because there was no wetlands as far as.
I could see, the wetlands are pretty far to the peripheral of the site. And if that was, all heavily vegetated, I mean, I could see someone, not saying that's right, I could see someone being on that site and saying, oh, there's no wetlands here at all. And going to build the greenhouses and whatnot. It just happened. I mean, that happens sometimes. Maybe it wasn't intended, but, and that's pure speculation on my part.
Two things when he's talking about the milling, it's actually gravel. There's a trail that loops around the property, but down, that's where they brought in to level up the potholes and stuff like that on that trail. The other thing I was going to mention is not spending his money, but it's not uncommon for this commission to say put up signs on the limits of the park. If that's something that is a condition of approval, we could work this out. It's up to you guys.
I don't know who has the better map of your delineation of the wetlands. Could you show us that again?
Yeah, I would say this one right here.
We're saying that wasn't accurate. Lisa, is it possible?
No,
Excuse me. Is it possible to get Jim Horrible back into this? I'd like the town agent to participate in this.
Guys, for the record, Tom Copeland.
That's your wetland boundary?
That's my wetland.
And this is the property line?
Correct.
So, gentlemen, our commission members, just for a sequence of events that you asked about, in February, I was notified by Jim Warble that there was complaints about activity
Of this year.
February of 2024. And then on March the 5th, Jim sent me an email and says, as we spoke last week, it would be helpful to receive a statement from Ian Cole on his preliminary works and his scheduled detailed analysis of the work regarding the garden center. So I then looped in Ian and Jack and Martin on March 4th, 5th, and 6th. Ian didn't get out there because of his schedule too. He was in May. So the complaints, as far as I was concerned, started coming in sometime in February or January, and we were trying to nip it in the bud, but it was winter time, and so that's how Ian was brought in, I guess proactively by this commission through Jim Moore. While that was going on, we were decommissioning everything, like Ian said, and we brought it to planning and zoning to abandon the nursery use with the recommendation coming from the neighbors that they would like to see the use abandoned. So we did that at planning and zoning, and then Jack started designing the subdivision, and here we are today.
Did you remove all the greenhouse that were there, or were they already gone?
I was told by zoning that, well, I didn't have to remove the greenhouses, but I needed to clean up the site, so we did all that sometime in March or April.
Jim, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you see me?
No, we can't.
Oh, sorry about that.
We can hear you though.
It's fine.
Okay, hold
Jim,
on. Well, you don't want to see my ugly puss. How about now?
No,
I'm here, but go ahead, ask the question.
oh, there you are.
Yep.
Jim, a comment was made before, I don't know if you heard it, Mr. Cole said that there was a major sewer project that came in the 80s.
I mean, that was my read of it from the
And
plans.
he said that a lot of that fill that's there that they found on the site was brought in back then. Does that correspond with anything that you know, or?
I mean, listening to the conversations, it makes sense that activity occurred in that area when the Vineyard Drive, Earl Wickland subdivision, Vineyard, Burgundy, that whole project went in probably in the mid-80s. Typically with a sanitary sewer project, and we don't have the depth of the cover over the sewer project. Typically, and what the commission, your commission would do in the past, if a sewer went through, and I'm sure there's a permit for it, would say, okay, go through, do what you have to do. Whatever fill you need to place to go in, to, access the site is pulled out that is not virgin material, and put the wetland material back, as we say, bucket to bucket. First bucket out is the last bucket in. So yeah, I'm sure activity took place there. Why there's 4 feet of fill over that area doesn't make sense just from the, the sewer construction. So there's one question I have, and I guess we'll go back to the original presentation, or the start of the presentation. And again, I'm not a zoning official, but Jack Gilmartin, if I can just ask a quick question from the standpoint, the total square footage of the parcel is approximately how many thousand square feet?
The parcel is 93,539.96 square feet, 2.14 acres.
Okay. And I guess what I'm getting at, knowing, you have two 21,000 square foot residential lots up front, and the rear lot itself requires 42,000 square feet. And the zoning regulation says that 32,000 or 42,000 square feet for the rear lot cannot contain any wetland type activity or soil. So I don't know what the numbers, I don't have the print in front of me, unfortunately, and shame on me. But the only question I'm posing is, from a zoning standpoint, before the commission really moves forward with any type of direction, is the parcel going to meet the rear lot? Is it going to meet the zoning requirements for an official approval?
All right, so the answer to your question is that the rear lot is really 50,116.99 square feet.
Jump over to the speaker.
Okay,
button.
all right, so the rear lot area is 50,116.99 square feet is the rear lot. Of that rear lot, 42,750.27 square feet is out of the wetland area. So the answer to your question, Jim, yes, what you have to have is, if you have a property, you have wetlands on it, your land has to be contiguous. And such, the one we did over Mill Street, if you remember a few years back, they had wetlands, but we had a path of wetlands to get around to the back land, and it's contiguous by doing that. So this does meet that square footage for a double the zone rear lot, because it has the excess land for the wetlands.
Okay, so you're just over the 42,000 then?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions from the commission?
I'm still trying to figure out where the 4 feet of material came from.
Well,
That's on top of the.
Yeah, all I can tell you is we dug test pits, and there was a lot of fill on that site that was manufactured. I saw no evidence of filling of wetlands, either during the construction of sewers or whatnot. But generally speaking, the uplands, as the soil survey suggests, also it would classify as manufactured man-made lands.
If I may, as a surveyor, when I go out and do a survey, and I'm doing the topography, I didn't see any dumpings. You see somebody dumped a load, and you got a fresh soil that hasn't anything growing. I didn't see any look of activity in that. So then I contacted Mike Kokomo, And so like the neighbors are saying they're dumping out there. I don't see it. What he's, well, I brought in some stuff for the wood, and that was the only thing. But if you go out there, you won't see any fresh mounds or anything.
There's no stockpiles, there's no excavated material.
And I didn't see it when I did the survey. That kind of surprised me.
So if I may, I build sewers once in a while. This low line here on the sewer is 165. The top, the grades on the property is 175. So that's a 10-foot difference between the current grade and the flow line of sewer. Now, when you dig a sewer, and if that, maybe Ian can tell you better, but if you dug 10 feet and Ian said that brook was about 2 feet below in the back, if you dug 10 feet, you would have, you would hit substantial water. Now, when you put a sewer line in, if you hit water, you need to dig in the flow line. You still need to excavate another 2 or 3 feet below. When you do that, you can't put that soil back in. You need to be trap rock. So that pipe does not lay in a loose organic material that ultimately could fall apart. So that pipe is bedded with trap rock. So there was serious excavation, and Ian said 10 just going off of these lines. In order to get to the base, you're talking 12 or 13.
Anybody have anything else?
I mean, I see the public's here. Is there
Well,
any
that's
chance
what
we can get
this is a public hearing. If we have anybody in the audience who would like to ask questions of this commission or of the people who are representing Mr. Kokomo, stand up, state your name and your address, and direct your comments to whoever. You have to come over here because you got to be near the.
Okay, I heard about the sewer line and basically all that.
Your name and address,
Oh,
please.
John O'Brien, 12 Vineyard. My rear yard abuts the dump. But anyway, that sewer line runs between my house and my neighbor's house. It's like this in between houses.
To the left of your house or to the right of your house?
If you're facing the house, to the left of the house. Now, what they're saying is all this soil that's dug out would add to the height of the wetlands. Well, how come it's a valley where that sewer line goes? And it runs across my whole backyard. How come my backyard is level? So I discount what they're saying about the soil being built up on the back of the nursery. Okay, now we'll get started. I have to put my glasses on because when you get older, vision. Just bear with me for a minute. Okay, according to Mr. Kokomo and some of his engineers or whatever, he just recently bought that about a year ago. Well, back the 8th day of May of 2020, Michael Kokomo owned 31% of JVC. Thomas Kokomo owned 38% of JVC. John Venenziano owned 30% of JVC, and Daniel Laviani owned 1%. So if you give the Kokomos 69% that had control and interest in that, which Tommy said he didn't own that property until about a year ago, and everything, which is not true. It was JVC. You want this? You could have it.
You can just leave your stuff there.
I got more.
Mr. Chairman, for the record, I would say, and again, I'm not an attorney, but I don't know that that's an appropriate item that the commission should be should be entered into the record from the wetland standpoint.
Yeah, but what it's showing is Tommy said he just bought it. He was involved with the filling.
Excuse me, Mr. O'Brien. The town agent's correct, that's not privy to this argument at all.
Okay, now they're
I think
saying
what we-
about,
Mr. O'Brien, what we have to do is really focus on the wetland issues and what
Okay.
applies to
Okay,
the
Jim.
site.
okay, let's see. Now, Tom said, basically, on the threat to me, that neither him nor any of his employees filled in that land. And he's gonna go basically restitution on me with his attorney. Well, let me give Tom a little history of myself. I'm a veteran of the Vietnam era, went through intensive training for Vietnam. I don't bend, I don't cave. If I'm right, credibility is everything you could have. If you have no credibility, you have nothing. So what I'm going to tell you is going to be the truth. Now, Tom Kokomo says that this era, pictures, well, I guess pictures don't lie. I'm going to give the board just one picture tonight. Ask Tommy whose machine that is. Because the other one I'll have the operator on.
It says on the back of there, May of 2020.
Yep. This is going to be the same thing. I'll do the machines at a later date. You could put 2020, it's the same time period. Now, I'm going to have to apologize to Tom Kokomo because I represent people from the Chamberlain Highway to Warner Road, both sides of the Chamberlain Highway, that want to stay anonymous. I said 18 to 20 10-wheelers and everything. Well, I was corrected on that. She says she stopped counting at 20 because she was sick of hearing the bang, bang, bang. For 1 week, that fill was coming in to that rear yard. And that's why you see his dozer. As a matter of fact, he broke a track on that dozer, and I was talking to the repairman and everything. I found it amusing. This heavy track, and they had to repit it to put it back together. But you probably forgot about that. Now, the reason I could go on that land when he first took over, I went over, I cut the grass in front of the building, I pressure washed the front of the building, the side of the building, the garage, and the opposite side, and cleaned up the whole front and everything. Trying to be a neighbor. I've known him since they were kids. Him and his brother Michael, fantastic ball players. Boy, they could hit the
Mr.
ball.
O'Brien,
But anyway,
we have to get back to the
Okay.
issue, please.
but anyway, I represent these people, and everything. They come to me with information. The back was never cleared up. It's still got the existing stuff from 4 years ago piled up. Looks like a dump. Now, the other thing, as far as all the fill that was brought in, that's because I put the hoops up all the way up to the brook. I call it brook, stream, whatever. That was all filled in. Now, I would like to see our own engineers, soil people go out and do a real test on it. Because that was parking lot gravel from a parking lot, which I could never find out where, what town, Plainville, Bristol, that they're putting a new parking lot in. And there's tar scrapings, big chunks of tar, rock. So it's a very hard surface. So therefore, when it rains heavy, it does not absorb, it runs off.
Mr. O'Brien, I don't mean to
No,
stop
go
you,
ahead,
Nick,
that's all right.
but everything you're bringing to us is from 2020.
No.
No,
No.
you just showed two pictures of the property from 2020, May of 2020, correct?
24 years ago.
Yes.
Okay.
That it's to me that unless you have more proof that other pictures of it, he was told to clean the lot up.
Yeah. For the record, there was a permit for putting in the greenhouse.
Right.
Correct? Yeah.
And I don't believe he was involved with putting in the greenhouse because I don't think he owned it back then.
He owned it. He owned it, JVC. I just got through telling you. Okay, put that back in. There's a solution. Can we go back and I'll get back to you on that because it's here someplace.
It's on the table here, John.
Okay. Okay.
You said somebody owns 60%, 80%.
Yeah.
We get
Okay,
that.
so he was the owner.
We agree
back
we're
then.
not gonna go there.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
That's not-
that's not relevant to what we're
Okay, and your question was again?
Excuse me?
What was your question again?
Well, everything is from 2020, and do you have anything that happened in the last year?
So the way
No,
I
because
see it,
it's been pretty dormant as far as doing any work back there. The hoops are down, he sold off the hoops. Another thing, the tarps are still piled up, the oil tank is still there, the furnace is still there, it's all overgrown back there.
Again, that really is irrelevant to us because we're looking to find out if he's going to be building in the wetlands or not. And right now, you're not giving us any information that's relevant to what we're talking about.
Okay. And you can have these pictures. The fill is going to be on the bottom, looking into what used to be a pretty wide brook. And at the end, you can.
When were these pictures taken, Mr. O'Brien?
These pictures were taken in 2024.
Okay, so these are recent pictures. And what was the timing on that fill? What was the timing on that fill?
The timing on that fill goes back to when you see the dozer there,
2020.
probably about 4 years ago.
Okay, so you mentioned hoops up to a brook.
Yeah, I have pictures of that.
And that is 2020 activity,
Right.
2020. And you mentioned the neighbors talking about 18 to 20 10-wheelers.
Stop counting at 20, she told me.
And what year was that?
That'd have to be 2020, 2020, 2021.
So so hoops refers to greenhouses, is
Right,
that correct?
right.
So the activity that you are reporting to the commission about concerns the filling of the property and the construction of greenhouses on the property in circa 2020.
Right.
And that
Up until,
fill, the picture that you just showed us from 2024 showing the toe of fill slope up against the wetland boundary, that is a result of the 2020 activities. That
exactly.
correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's all into the wetlands and to the brook.
Thank you.
Here's another. And you could have these pictures. I have your.
Do you know what month these were taken? Do you know what month they were taken? You said 2024. What month?
Yeah, no, you could have them.
No, what month were they? What month were the pictures taken?
I would say within a month.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if you could, it's Jennifer Capola.
Yeah.
If
Go
you're
ahead, Jennifer.
Good evening. If you could, so I understand that there were two photos that were taken in 2020. If we could, I believe those are your first exhibits for this public hearing. If we could please label those 1A and 1B, and then the photos from 2024. It hasn't been noted for the record how many there are of those, but if you could label those 2 and then A through, whatever letter. If you could do that, please, just for record purposes, so we know the difference between the 2020 and 2024 photos. Thank you.
Jennifer, a question. The ones taken in 2020, is that relevant to this discussion?
So, listen, I mean, you've received testimony. It is up to you to decide what you think ultimately is relevant, but, even with the offering regarding the corporate makeup of the owner and the fact that they had a percentage, I mean, that's relevant in terms of, it does go to the veracity of the testimony that you've received. Ultimately, it could be viewed that way, but it's up to you to decide. As far as the photos are concerned, you have received testimony regarding what activity there was and when it occurred. And I think that, you determine what weight you're going to give that, and if it's something that is in fact material to your criteria for decision in section 10 of your regulations.
I have a question, Commissioner Rogan. I'm assuming that this work that was done to grade this off was done before the installation of the greenhouses. Is that correct? Yes or no?
Yeah, it was done so they could put the greenhouses in there.
The greenhouses had a permit to do that. Is that correct?
Right.
I understand that when you build something and you set it at grade, you're allowed to do work around or under the building to establish a grade.
You're allowed for a farm or a greenhouse up to 2 feet of fill.
No, there's no way of proving one way or another.
Go online.
No, I'm just saying you
No,
have no way of proving it.
Yes. Mr. Kochman, when were those greenhouses installed?
So to concur with John, I own 30% of the real estate. Those greenhouses were approved. I don't know when, because I was not part of the application process. I don't know when they were installed, but I would assume right after sometime in early 2020 or spring of 2020. I don't know, and I don't even know if that's my bulldozer. I'd look at it.
That's just any of your vehicles.
A van? That's not my bulldozer.
Is that's on the record, Tom? That's not your bulldozer.
That's not my D5.
Tommy, I got pictures of you on it.
I don't even know how to run it.
I'm sorry, your brother Michael uses that. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. You don't even know how to run it. You don't run any of your equipment. Michael does it. I'm sorry. I apologize. But it was your equipment.
Soil scientists are her choice to do expense.
Okay, this one here, the deletion, I don't fully understand that because it's all filled up in right up to the flags that they put. Can they do that? That's probably a few feet high, right where that flag is. I have more showing. I'm gonna just run through these. I'm just gonna hand them out.
Well, I mean, if they're kind of all the same, we don't.
Yeah, well, it's gonna show.
Just tell us what each picture, why you took it.
Yeah.
Means something.
I took this one here because when they cut down all the trees, some of them laid in the brook and they stayed there ever since. They never cleaned out the brook. They filled in the brook and all the trees. So therefore, us neighbors upstream and downstream are suffering because of what they did. Upstream towards West Lane, they're getting flooded out in their backyard because it can't go around. Downstream from my house down, it's taken what the nursery used to take in. Now we're getting flooded out.
Jim, I have a question for you, and I don't know if this is doable, and it was brought up. We have Mr. O'Brien saying that all this fill was brought in. We have Mr. Cole saying that he had no evidence of new fill being brought in. Could we hire our own soil scientist at Mr. Kokomo's expense to investigate this on our behalf?
Yes, there is an ordinance that provides the Wetlands Commission, I believe, water control, planning and zoning, to retain your own experts when an application such as this comes in. The applicant is to be notified within a certain time frame. But yes, that and Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong, that option is available.
I believe that option is available. I do think that you have that as part of your local laws, but and just remember too, when you last hired a consultant, that was recent,
Yeah,
right?
a couple of years ago with, yeah.
We had to go out of the area.
We had attempted because, and I think Mr. Cole had mentioned this earlier, that there's the possibility of getting it reviewed. And I think we had gone to the state to, or the Department of Agriculture, right?
We actually tried, but I think they said
and that didn't.
Yeah, they weren't available.
So maybe we try that first, Jim, as a courtesy. To Mr. Kokomo, we could try that again and just see if that's something that maybe now is available, because who knows, maybe, somebody else may be doing that work, or, that may be a possibility. So I think as a courtesy to him, we try that route first.
I mean, Jim, you think that's a good idea as far as because we're getting two conflicting reports here.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, and we get an unbiased third party to come in and take a look, and it is, the facts are the facts, and we'll get that information.
So, and Mr.
What doesn't make sense to me is that he's got pictures from 2020 of massive filling of 18 trucks, and but nobody's heard of it. This commission wasn't, but all of a sudden, when I go to start cleaning it up in January, now the commission's being told. That doesn't make sense. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Right.
So excuse me, I'm talking, it's my turn. Okay, I respect that you're a veteran, Mr. O'Brien.
And I don't back down. You forgot that part.
Asking you to back down. I'm not sure.
Mr. Kokomo's speaking right now.
Yeah, so you're looking at pictures from a month ago? What is that gonna tell you? The wetlands were flagged in May. At the direction of this commission.
Well,
I mean, this is so you're entitled, and I appreciate that I appreciate that he has concerns and questions, but his allegations from 2020 are brought forward today. Seems like an agenda. If you want to validate that, that's your position.
Well, I'm asking you if you would be willing to let us do this.
I would be willing, yes, and I'd like you to do it too. I'd like you, and I've encouraged this commission. I think it's appropriate for this commission, maybe should be done more often, to walk the site.
Well, that was going to be in the future. I was going to ask Mr. Cole if what he flagged out there is still there. If not, could you go back out there and reflag it?
So the flags are still out there. I was just out there in September, like I said, September 18th, and the flags are still there. You'll walk into the wetland boundary, and it's very evident that I'm in the wetland boundary now. I think I just went and looked I'm not 100% on this, so you have to, I think, I said before that the North Central Conservation District services Berlin. I think I'm incorrect on that. I just looked at their map. I think they service Weathersfield, but not Berlin. I think it's the Connecticut Association of Conservation Districts that service Berlin. So you might want to reach out to them. And on the website, they say that they do.
Do you have that, Lisa?
And that's what Attorney Capola has requested we do as a first step. So we're all good.
Whether or
with
not
this,
they're
correct?
available, I don't know. There's not a lot of professionals out there. So,
Right.
but it's a good starting point.
But I mean, I think it's, Mr. Kokomo, as long as you understand we're gonna be doing this,
I encourage
Yeah.
you, Mr. Chair.
And I'd offer up if the commission is successful in engaging an individual, I'd gladly show up also and discuss them on site with findings too, so that it helps.
once the findings are made,
Sure.
you would be invited back to at the meeting.
Whatever works for the commission.
Okay,
So we're gonna
Yeah.
table this. public
so
hearing.
before you go any further, Mr. Bynum, is anybody else from the audience would like to say something?
Come on up.
Name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Raymond Zisa. I live at 374 Chamberlain Highway with my wife Erica. We're right next door to this property. We're on the north side of it. My whole southern border is right on the edge of their property. So I've been a resident there for 25 years, about Alan Hall's house. And we've had a lot of good rapport with the neighbors there that used to be at that property. I'll be brief. I'm not a scientist, my opinion. Just from living next door to it, hearing the machine work going on for that time back in 2021, possibly, whatever that was. Trucks coming in, I don't know how many, I didn't count them. And just machines going on for probably a week or two, all day long, and all, at the end of the night, I come home from work, I would hear it too. We take a walk over there occasionally just to see what's going on. And there used to be trees, a lot of trees there, all basically like swamp area in there. And that's been completely covered over, filled right up to the brook. Ever since then, we have a direct impact on our property because of that. We've been getting flooded. In the last year or two, it's been a lot worse. So much so that we have pictures of that. There's half of our property is now underwater when it gets really heavily rained. So much so that unfortunately we got even into our basement. Never had water there in 25 years. So because of whatever happened over there over that time, it has now come over to our property because we're just north of that property. When it rains, it just backs up. I think the water that used to spread out into that area is now not able to do that. And we're just covered with water now. So that's our main issue at the moment because of what's going on right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I think our next step is to go the way what Attorney Capola said and Mr. Harville said. We'll look at the Connecticut Conservation, and not, we'll have to go out and hire somebody to do it, but I think that's a start. Yes, Bill?
I have a question. So it sounds like a significant activity, significant development of the property occurred circa 2020, circa 2021. And my question for the Wetland Commission was, are there any permits, any wetland permits associated with that work?
I've been on the commission for, and I don't remember any.
Well, it's something we need to research on our end, whether or not this activity during 2020 and 2021 was somehow permitted.
So that those permits would precede getting an approval from zoning or putting in the greenhouses?
I assume it would precede zoning.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I can just offer a comment, the previous work that was involved, and Mr. Cole mentioned there was agricultural activities there associated with the greenhouse construction. Keep in mind, your regulations allow certain activities based upon agricultural uses. You could put a greenhouse up, the hoop house, on the native soil, but once you bring fill into that area, it requires permitting. A farmer can go out and cut hay in a wetland area. He can let his cows pasture, but once you start filling and disturbing the native soil, that requires permitting. So from my recollection, and I'm sorry I haven't been in the office for a bit, the activity that was proposed with the greenhouses was installing them, constructing them at existing grade. If additional fill was brought in, a foot or two of fill to accommodate those, that would have required permitting from your agency.
So just to follow up on that, that's also my recollection because the subject property was a property of discussion before planning and zoning at more recent meetings. And I recollect that too, as part of the history. I don't believe that there was a zoning permit. I believe that there was a building permit that had been issued for the construction of the greenhouses. Because they were to be installed at grade. That's part of my recollection as well. Thank you.
Jim, I guess if we had our soil scientists evaluate, he'd be able to tell us if there was new fill within the last few years. I would assume, if he could be able to tell if there was newer fill.
Yeah, I think at this point, what I would recommend to the commission is that I would request the applicant to delineate field, stake out what was the approximate limit of wetlands on the previous approvals. I know they go back quite a ways, but if we could see where that was delineated per se, and then obviously if we could, recreate, and I'm sure most of the flagging is still in place from Mr. Cole's recent delineation, the commission can visit the site, get a feel for the difference, in the delineations and the distances. I want to say they're 40, 50, 60 feet. And again, shame on me, I don't have the plan in front of me. And then we will work to see if we can find a public agency to go out and do a third-party review. If not, we will look to contract, a third-party soil scientist. We'll forward that information to the applicant to make them, aware of what the cost might be. If I recall, the ordinance says whatever we receive as an estimate cost, the applicant's required to put up 150% of that estimate. And hopefully we can get that done, within the next 30 days. I would certainly suggest the commission continue the hearing to the November meeting, which will be November 5th. And again, I'm not sure, is election day the 5th? I don't have our schedule in front of us.
Yes.
Probably the 11th then. Lisa, do you have the meeting dates on the wall there?
I don't have it in front of me.
Tuesday is the 12th of November.
Oh, yes, okay. Yep. It's time for reading glasses. I'm sorry. My calendar's here.
So again, let's table this till November 12th.
I speak as a member of the public.
Sure.
Name and.
My name is Jared Sirocco. I'm shadowing Tom. He's nice enough to bring me around. I live at 299 Percival Avenue, Berlin, Connecticut. So standing here just listening as an outsider, we have a certified soil scientist, we have a surveyor telling you guys expert stuff. The soil hasn't been disturbed since a long period of time, down to 4 feet. We have a couple of photos from a neighbor that doesn't want houses built in their backyard. That's what I'm hearing as a non-biased third party. I live in town.
Let me tell you something.
It's a little frustrating being a resident.
I understand that, but we as a commission,
yeah,
if we didn't respect the people
understood
who are complaining, we're not doing our due diligence.
I understand.
So we have to take every avenue to make sure that our final answer is in the best interest of everybody involved, including the town.
I understand.
So we can't just say, oh, he got stuff from 2020. That doesn't make a difference. We're going to let Mr. Kokomo build. We can't. That would not be.
I'm not asking you to not consider it.
I'm saying that you have expert testimony that is paid for out of Tom's pocket.
But-
And now you're asking him to pay another expert for more information.
That's how we've done this in the past.
I understand.
This is how we do it.
Right, and we have to know for sure. We cannot just say, and I understand Mr. Cole's been before us.
Yeah.
Both of these gentlemen have been before us, and they're reputable. They're licensed. We understand that. They're not going to do anything against their license because they could lose it.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're 100% because these people are telling us something different, and we have to appease them and us to make sure we're making the right decision.
Understood.
So
Okay,
we just can't say, oh yeah, you're right. We got a soil scientist telling us one thing that we can't. We got to go with him.
It is unfortunate, Mr. Chair, though, he has means to pay for his own engineer. I have to augment his means.
Well,
That's a difficult pill to swallow, although I'm willing to do so, but it would be nice. It would be nice because it's not it would be nice if you said to the public, do you have a soil scientist? Do you have an engineer? But it's a big bad developer, right? Big bad
well,
guy.
you're not the big bad developer, Mr. Kochman.
I know because I'm not a little peanut developer.
But we have to get, like I just told the gentleman, we have to get the answers to make the proper decision.
But you're hearing expert testimony
Rowe.
that you trust.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
There are protocols that we've followed for years.
Absolutely.
This is simply how we've done business for years. We're not saying that he's wrong. We're not saying that you're wrong. So what we're doing is this is the way we neutralize the problem. And that's how we do it. And I like the added step that we're being gracious that doesn't cost any money. I'm fine with that. But if it has to go past that, then it has to go past that. And
But
this is how we do
Can I
it.
ask you a question?
Excuse me.
Sorry.
I was up here talking. He barged in, took over the floor.
No,
He lives on
the
Percival.
chair gave him
Yeah,
permission
but
to speak
he
and he
lives on
stated his name.
Percival Avenue. I put up with the beep, 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 5:30 in the morning. Finally, I got that stopped. I'm putting up with a fencing company, dumping stuff out and everything. He lives on Percival Avenue. He doesn't have to listen to the beep, beep when the trucks are coming in at night and everything.
So is your story that the trucks are coming in at night now still?
Excuse me, gentlemen.
Hey, guys,
This is
Mr.
not-
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, one person at a time.
This is a Wetlands Commission. We're not here to decide who's right and who's wrong. Excuse me, Mr. O'Brien, please. Enough.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
We heard we have to say we have your pictures.
Okay, here's more. This is gonna basically show the hoops that were right up to the wetlands. There's several pages.
Okay.
And I'm sorry for barging in, but he like took over and this gentleman here was waiting for the pictures. Here's the other pictures. They're all self-explanatory.
Excuse me, this is Jennifer again. Is this a separate grouping of photos?
Yeah.
Okay, and what year are they from and what do they depict? And please, if they are a third grouping, please label them again 3A through whatever.
There's no dates on them.
Yeah, within the year.
Within a year from when, please, Mr. O'Brien?
Not from now.
So at some point within the past year.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Brown, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think we have a
You
lot
got
of
enough
pictures.
photos.
Is there anybody else who wants to speak?
Okay, I got one more, just one more fast one. I'd like to have Tom Kokomo back in here.
Okay, what do you want to ask him?
Well, Tommy Kokomo made the allegations that I've done a lot of work in the back of my wetlands, cutting of trees and all.
I said to this commission, and you can bring the recording, because I asked the chairman, anyone can make allegations. Right? Everyone's got an opinion.
Yeah.
And if perhaps you guys are gonna validate somebody saying that they're filling the wetlands, the guy who lives in a glass house maybe shouldn't throw stones. That's what I think of. So maybe, and that's why I have a hard time with this commission, because I said, well, I filled my property, perhaps he filled his property, but there's no notice of violation going out to him. There's no notice of there's no inquiry from this commission, but that's okay. That's okay. I see how it works.
He just wants to tell you. All
I
right,
don't want to
I'm gonna leave these pictures here. 2018 and 2020, we had storms. And these are all the trees, pictures of all the trees, basically in the back wetlands on the other side of the brook that were cut up. We literally went into the brook, me and my late brother-in-law went in and we winched them out to stop the blockage of the water flow. Went on the other side and we cut them up in longer lengths and brought them up towards the woods where they fell so they wouldn't flow downstream and everything. But this is pictures
Mr. Chair, are you allowed to cut vegetation in the wetlands?
when they're dead and blown down.
I'm asking Mr. Chair, speaking to the chair. Are you allowed to cut vegetation?
You're not supposed to.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
You know, again,
I'll see you later. Thanks.
yeah, a tree that blew down in the storm.
Sure went, got a permit. I know the rules. Not allowed.
You do know the rules. That's why you're so illegal. You gotta.
Okay, let's stop.
All right, I'm gonna go because I know how he is.
If there's no other comments, no other discussion, Tom, Mr. Kochman, we're gonna get another person to help us out, getting some answers. We'll get back to you. Is that,
Yeah, please.
Mr. Cole, is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think what Mr. Harville said, would you be willing to go out and flag the 86, whatever it was?
Yeah, I don't have the ability to flag the 86, so it's a survey engineering exercise. I don't know how that line was established.
Okay.
Like I said, if you look at that legacy map, that 91 map shows that approximate wetland line, that's what we're talking about. That references a map from the 80s.
Right, that's not.
Who knows what that map references? That line could reference something back to the 70s. So I have no idea. My guess is a surveyor would have to geo-reference that and scale it in, and then put up a transit and go out in the field and shoot with the transit to establish where that line is.
Yeah, Mr. Cole, I'm assuming that map probably referenced the sanitary sewer construction back when Vineyard Drive was built, because it's about that time frame. So we may actually, in my office, we may have a copy of that. But I think at this point, just for the commission's benefit, if Mr. Gilmartin can at least try to approximate from the 91 map where that line is shown, just so the commission gets a feel for, you know, the discrepancies and what we've heard and, you know, as a part of this public hearing.
I think a surveyor could scale that in, put some stakes in the ground for you, and you'd be able to.
And we're just, we're looking for approximate. I mean, we've got your map, we have that map. It's pretty straightforward. The stream's located on both maps, so.
For the record, I could do that, and I thank you for your service. I volunteered for Vietnam 68 to 70.
67 to 69.
There you go. Beat me there.
US 52723 181.
If there's no more comments from the people in the audience and no more questions.
No, we have somebody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, John.
Go
I
ahead.
apologize for getting a little excited.
Just as a housekeeping matter, I actually looked on the calendar, and you don't have a November meeting regular meeting that's actually showing up on the calendar. I'm not quite sure why that is. I wouldn't. So it's not only is it not showing up for election day, it's also not showing up for the 12th. So it would be I mean, we'll work it out. We'll check, you know, the regular meeting schedule that was submitted. So if you want, you know, to have if it ends up being a special meeting, it'll be a special meeting. You know, it's just a procedural issue.
Looking at our schedule as we speak.
Lisa said it was submitted for November 12th. We did the calendar. It was already submitted.
Okay. Yeah, it's just it didn't get put in on the calendar for some reason. So we'll have to fix that with the clerk's office.
Yep. We'll just notice it as a special meeting, worst case scenario.
Yes.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
My name's Erica Ziza. You heard from my husband, Ray. I live at 374 Chamberlain Highway. And I wanted to submit these photos that they are labeled December 18th, 2023. This shows what happened flooding around our property and the fill at the wetlands at the back of the property, the back of 398. You can see in these photos that that is not clean fill that is in there either. You can see the trees that are down, okay? And these are December 18th, 2023. I personally took these photos. I don't care if they put houses in around us, that's not the point. The point is, what's fair is fair. We can't fill in our wetlands and we wouldn't. This is filled in, it's very obvious. So here's some more photos just to submit, and there's the date.
Yeah. So how recent, when you took these pictures in 2023, how recent was this fill?
December 18th is when I took the photos of it.
And when was the fill placed?
I'm not sure exactly when that fill was placed, but you can see that there was no vegetation growing through there.
So I'm sorry, you took these in December 2023?
Yes.
And the fill, and you're not sure how long the fill had been in place?
No,
You're
but
not
I
sure
did
of the
remember.
timing?
I do remember the trucks coming in.
And when did the trucks come?
I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to talk to my husband about that, but I just want you to see that, yes, there was fill done
So
in the back corner.
That's the
sewer.
northwest corner of the 398 lot.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's this.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right on the side of our property right there.
So we need soil samples from here.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. And that's it. That's all I have to say. And you can keep those with that.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So we have to label on the separate.
Yeah, I did.
So those are gonna be exhibit 4, please, and label them A through whatever.
Exhibit 5.
Oh, okay.
And you have the stated name of the person that gave
Yeah,
that.
it's on there. Is there anybody else from the audience?
What were the dates on those photos?
12/18/2023.
In the winter?
Well, that's 12/18.
Yeah. Okay, just check.
If there's nothing else, anything else from Bill?
I think the commission needs to draw up a list of instructions for the independent entity that we end up retaining to assist us. We need to tell either the conservation agency
Right.
or the independent soil scientist. We need to have a list of directives that we desire from them
Right.
as they perform their study.
Well, they would be privy to seeing these exhibits, I would imagine.
Right, we want to know the nature of the fill.
Right.
We want to know the timing of the fill. And what else do we need to know?
Depth? How?
Yeah, depth, the nature of the fill material, the timing of the fill material, the depth of the fill material. So that would be, we assume that they would use aerial photography. They'd go back and look at aerials through time to determine the development of the property, the sequence of events in developing the property.
Does the recording secretary have that list that
What
Mr. Commissioner Jackson just listed?
Pretty much, but I
Oh, yeah. Jim, do you have anything else to add to that?
No, nothing at this point. I'll do my best to contact the Soil Conservation Service, and I think it was mentioned, Ian, that the Northwestern Conservation District.
So,
Ian is not here.
Jim, we do have the name of the gentleman.
Okay,
I have it
good.
I have it from the last time, and we could simply check online if he's still the person to contact. And
Okay,
Well, he said it wasn't North Central. It's Connecticut.
Oh, well, CACUIC is the Connecticut Association of Wetland Commissions. But this is, if you look up soil conservation districts or Connecticut conservation districts. There's 5 districts for all of Connecticut. I believe the one that services Berlin is the Connecticut River Coastal Conservation District.
Yeah, and I know we've spoken to them. They do not provide that service to us anymore. So, but we'll still search as best we can.
Yes,
I'd just like to also submit that on 12/18/2023 on a quick Google search. Connecticut experienced extreme rain events that caused significant flooding and damage across the state in mid-December. It resulted in widespread power outages, road flooding, school closures. Storm caused 75,000 customers to lose power at the peak, with communities in Hartford County receiving 4 inches of rain. The storm also led to downed trees, significant traffic disruptions, restoration of power. It took several days for crews to address the damage. Thank you.
I think you just enforced what they're saying, is that heavy rain and their yard was flooded.
That was 4 years. That was 4 inches of rain in one day that caused road flooding and power outages. That's an extreme storm.
Sir, could you tell us for the record what you were reading from, please? Thank you, sir.
It was a Microsoft webpage.
If there's no other questions or comments, from anybody, this has gone long enough. Hopefully we'll get some answers, but until then, I need a motion to table the public hearing.
Sir, Mr. Chair, you're continuing the public hearing, not tabling it.
Excuse me, you're right.
And that date is to November the 12th, please.
12th.
Thank you.
So Commissioner Rogan will continue the application till November 12th, application number 24-08W.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We'll see everyone. Yes, Mr. Gilmore.
You're done with that?
Yes.
Just down on the agenda, I just double checking, 61 Still Meadow, the restoration of wetlands that you had before you, they had to take care of it in the last month.
Yeah.
I sent Jim photos of the property, the work has been done, receipts for the plants, receipts for the wetland soil, seedlings.
Yeah.
So all that has been provided to Jim. I think it's closed, but I don't see on the agenda. So,
yeah.
But I want to be able to tell the homeowner.
Okay. All right. Jim, did you got that?
Yeah, I did receive that today, Jack. So good. Yep.
All right, thank you. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for serving.
These are all going with this one. Next, regular meeting is application 24-09W, proposal by Newport 848 Farmington Avenue LLC to construct residential housing, parking associated improvements within an upland review area at 848 Farmington Avenue.
Good evening, Chair, Commission members. We made an extensive presentation at the last meeting, so unless there's any particular questions, I wasn't planning on any additional presentation, but I'm happy to answer questions.
Well, this is you're not really, if I remember correctly, you're not in the wetlands. You're not in the upland review area, I don't think, are you?
We are in the upland review area. I can, if you'd like, I can call
Yeah,
it
just real quick.
Yeah, that'd be great. It's in a parking lot.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, for the record, Andrew Quirk, professional engineer and principal of Kratzer Jones and Associates. At the last meeting, Jim Sipperly described the delineation of the wetlands shown by the blue line here in this area. And the upland review area does come through the corner of the building, the orange line that's here. And again, this is an area today that's primarily paved, and we'll actually be removing this pavement. And then the building is generally on the same area as the pavement there. So there was we calculated the changes between existing and proposed from 96 spaces reduced to 80.
Right.
Reduction in the proposed impervious area by 8%, and a reduction of the impervious area within your buffer by 21%. and still using the same stormwater management for water quality and quantity that's on site, with the reductions in impervious and reductions in the loading. So everything was really a positive.
Yep.
From the perspective of the impact on the wetlands.
Yeah, the only thing I remember is that the reason why you need more parking there originally was because it was going to be a medical,
That's exactly right.
and now it's not. You're not going to have any type of.
Originally, it was permitted for medical on the first floor of the existing building, but that was filled with retail, and that holds a lower parking
Right,
requirement
okay.
than medical. So it's a great reuse of impervious area, additional parking. It's near the rail station.
Yeah.
Really a lot of positives.
Jim, you have no problem with this, right? This was
No,
straightforward.
as the applicant had mentioned, last month, all the activity is being confined to an existing improved area, the parking lots, some landscaped areas. Yes, it's in the wetland up review area, but it's already disturbed. The total impervious surface, I believe, is being reduced by 8 or 10% as far as stormwater management goes. From a staff standpoint, we're very pleased with it.
Anybody have any questions or comments? No? If not, I'd like to have a motion to either approve or deny.
I make a motion to approve application 2409W.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Next. Are we getting paid for
Waited
this?
all that time for that.
Next, notice of violations. Lot 2, block 127, 552 Deming Road. I don't see anybody here for them. And Jennifer, did you get a?
So, I'm supposed to be sending a letter to them, a warning of suit. And I think that I have to tell you, because you know that I was sick and I was not fully functioning. I'm much better right now. I told Jim that I was going to check on the status of that. Today I did not have an opportunity to do that. So if it has not gone out, I'll make sure that it goes out. But that, again, you had made the determination that you wanted to proceed with an enforcement action, to get compliance to address this, and authorize that I send a letter in advance to attempt to resolve before commencing suit on your behalf, or through your agent. So I do, intend to proceed in that manner on this.
All right. Jim, you have nothing to add, right? This is just.
Not at this point, no. The only thing I guess I can add in my travels with my bride driving me, I've gone by a number of times, and that pile of wood is still clearly visible up against the river.
Yeah, I've driven by it several times too, and it's there. It doesn't seem to be going down.
No. And you would think it would be, knowing that fall is coming, but
Right.
we'll see.
All right. So that's taken care of. Number 2, notice of non-compliance issued to Kokomo Old Brickyard Lane LLC and Kokomo Brothers on July 12th, 2024 regarding non-compliance of restoration plan for 212 and 224 Old Brickyard Lane approved by the commission in April 2nd, 2024. I see the Kokomos have left and their agents have left. I was out there today. I've been out there several times, but I wanted to take just to check just to make sure. And there was absolutely nothing done. What's our next?
Mr. Chairman, I can also advise you, I spoke with, if you recall our last meeting, we directed the Kokomos to contact Mike Ahern prior to the planting of the 6 foot Austrian pines. As the original, restoration plan required, they were going to contact me, and in my absence, we asked them to contact Mike, so we could make sure they're planting what they should be and they're of the proper size and location. I spoke with Mike last week. He had heard nothing. I checked with him today. He is still yet to hear anything from the Kokomo's in regards to the planting of those trees. I can tell you that there was a recent site plan approval, like maybe 2-3 months ago, for a building addition on the property of 212, 245. And my recommendation to planning and zoning, which they accepted, was that permit would not be issued until the restoration plan was complete. To my knowledge, at this point, they have yet to issue that building permit. I've been contacted a number of times in my absence regarding, the conditions that had approval. And at this point, I don't believe anything has changed.
And like I said, I was there today and nothing was done. Like you said, Jim, they didn't contact Mike, but I mean, I don't know what building is going on, but it looks like all those buildings are pretty much completed on the outside. So I don't know if they're just doing it.
Are these buildings in use at this point?
Yes.
Yeah, the condition, Dave, that we, that I recommended to planning and zoning, it involved in addition to the most northerly, it was an existing concrete block building. It was an auto body repair. I think there was actually, I think the Walpole Fence Company was over there for a bit, and they were looking for an addition to the building that would have been on the, let me think, on the eastern side of the existing structure. So, as I say, I was contacted several times by the building department and, advised them that they have yet to complete the restoration plan. So I would,
like I said,
I would hope there's no activity over there.
Well, like I said, I was there today. It looks like all the buildings are being used. My opinion. I don't,
Yeah.
I didn't walk into them, but there are trucks parked around there and there are vehicles there. So I don't know if somebody could go out and check just to make sure, but I'm sure if work was done without a permit.
I'll also advise and touch base with the town planner and zoning enforcement officer on that.
Thank you. And any correspondence, Jim or Lisa, anything do we?
Nothing that I'm aware of, Lisa.
Can you guys hear me? This is Maureen.
Maureen.
I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. I'm sorry, I've got a really bad connection.
We can hear you, Maureen. We can hear you.
Okay, this is Maureen, the town planner. I just wanted you to clarify on that last thing, and I'm sorry I've been having a big trouble with my connection, so I wasn't able to weigh in previously on anything else. But the property at 166 Old Brickyard that includes the building at 212, the building at 245, that whole row of buildings. The construction was all complete. They were waiting for, they got COs, they had some minor site modifications, and that included an addition to the building at 212, which has not been done. That's what was the old Grady garage, as Jim described it. That building, we have noted the permit, as they can't get the permit until, as Jim said, the wetlands agent is satisfied, or Wetlands Commission, and that's the way the Planning and Zoning Commission approved that. The rest of the buildings are occupied and all went with, had their CO issued. It wasn't to hold up the CO for the businesses that were established there. It was for the addition to the building that the condition was put on.
All right, I just say, looks like there was no half-completed building or anything like that. Looks like everything that was there was completed and people were in them.
So.
Yes,
so
that's true.
That everything is occupied except for the old Grady Auto Body Shop, correct?
No, it's still occupied, Dave. It's just they were looking to put an addition on that structure to the east of, what they have. So. Thank you, Maureen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
No problem. Thanks. Thanks for listening.
If there's No, nothing else to discuss. I'd like to make a motion to, oh, by the way, welcome our new member. She finally got sworn in and she's here. And
Congratulations.
And, and John Russo had put in his resignation, and it was approved, I guess, so that guy, we have a new member to take a spot. Other than that, if nobody has anything else, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn, Commissioner Rogan.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I want to apologize again for getting a little excited, but we've been waiting.
Thank you.
No,